everything in my power to protect the American people.
Mission concluded. Carter's coming home. Tonight, what he thinks he accomplished in Cuba.
Oh! Is that lightning?
Also tonight, the Weather Channel celebrates 20 years. We will look back at the idea that changed an industry, the channel that has gone from laughingstock to a television necessity in millions of American homes.
From NBC News, this is the news with Brian Williams.
Good evening. It got a little dicey today. Later, as we look live at parts of eastern Missouri underwater this evening, the question, is there any relief in sight? We will ask our friends at the Weather Channel on the occasion of their 20th anniversary. And we're going to take a special look this evening at what was an experiment on cable 2 decades ago, taking TV by storm, how a cable channel dedicated to the forecast changed the business of forecasting. We come back as a major weather story develops in the Midwest tonight, a special look at 20 years of the Weather Channel, how it has changed the business of reporting the forecast, how it has changed the business of television in its own way. Taking TV by storm, 20 years of the Weather Channel. Tonight, America's fascination with the forecast and with the one cable channel that delivers it all day, how a television upstart has changed an entire industry.
The news continues. Here again is Brian Williams.
Welcome back. There are people who can watch it for hours at a time, people who get pretty riled up by dew points and the counterclockwise circulation that can beautifully surround a huge churning low-pressure system. They are Weather Channel people. If you aren't one already, and be honest, you know one. It wasn't always that way. The Weather Channel is celebrating 20 years on the air, and perhaps you are among those who laughed at the idea. Who is going to watch a channel with just weather on it? For that matter, imagine, say, a golf channel, a food network, for that matter, MSNBC or CNBC. The Weather Channel channeled a growing fascination with weather, with the ability to cover it live and around the clock. Whether it was Hurricane Andrew that devastated South Florida in 1992, to the massive floods along the Mississippi River and its tributaries, that was back in 1993. Weather Channel personnel are scattered across the American Midwest again tonight, where flooding is once again a very big story. Rain is falling, by the way, across much of that region tonight, and residents in water-soaked parts of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana are bracing for the very worst. Flooding could reach record levels in some places. Evacuations underway. Illinois Senator Dick Durbin has asked President Bush tonight to declare the state of Illinois a federal disaster area. From tonight's weather to the 20th anniversary of the Weather Channel, which has become a utility in some homes like water and electricity. It is so-called niche programming. It is also in 85 million television homes in this country. We will begin our look back tonight, courtesy of the Weather Channel's own 20th anniversary special.
Blustery winds gusting to 77. There's John Hope sitting there, so we can't go there.
We did our best to warn people what kind of a hurricane this was.
Continues to be fierce.
Is one of about 80 to 90 miles an hour.
Unbelievable! Tornado on the ground!
Dear God, that just leaves me speechless.
Every time there's a hurricane in the Gulf, we are glued to the Weather Channel.
And good evening, America. Welcome to the Weather Channel, the non-ending weather telethon. I'm Bruce Edwards. Glad to be with you this evening.
This is the third hurricane to threaten northwest Florida this season. We're on St. George Island, the Barrier Island, offshore Apalachicola, and the Gulf of Mexico is turning up even though Kate is over 100 miles away.
Since 1982, technology and the Weather Channel have come a long way.
That's right. We got Maryland moving through Martinique. And
that's right. We want you to see.
Washing the windows.
That's right. We want to make sure you see good.
That's right.
That's right. We want you to see clearly into the forecast center so we know exactly what's going on.
National news outlets have come to value the Weather Channel's expertise.
People quote the Weather Channel, even the other networks, television. I use the Weather Channel.
Some of the porosity of this wind.
My least favorite things are when you put poor Mr. Cantore in anything, and he's got the blue thing on, and he's standing there, and the winds are thrashing him in the face. You don't have to do that to him. He seems like a nice fellow.
Probably the biggest storm in the Weather Channel's 20 years was a hurricane so intense and devastating that no one working that day will ever forget it.
Good morning. We're live in the Weather Channel Forecast Center. Continue to watch history in the making here on August 24th, 1992.
You felt like you were at the scene of an accident with no lights. We'd lost power about 3 a.m. for a 5 a.m. landfall. And you could look out and you could hear metal crunching, you could hear glass breaking, you could hear wood chipping away, you could hear bending and twisting, but you couldn't hardly see it because it was pitch black.
Oh, I was very concerned. As you recall, it came in very early in the morning, and I had been on the air all night, and we did our best to warn people what kind of a hurricane this was, but I always had the feeling, as I do in most major hurricanes, that there are a lot of people there in the hurricane's path that don't quite realize how bad it's going to be.
There's a little mystery and a little bit of soap opera with the Weather Channel, because the women get pregnant and they never say who did it. But then they come back and they never say what they had or anything. It's sort of like gone, and we all know. We say, well, she'll be back. And sure enough, maybe 6, 7 months later, they're back. We don't know what she had. And we don't know who the father is of any of these women. Some people say it's John Hope doing all of that work.
I don't know anyone except you that actually watches.
Oh, come on.
The
No,
Weather Channel. No, you. No.
I'm telling you right now, it's the next coolest thing.
No, you
come on.
check with the Weather Channel. You watch it like it's a 2-hour movie.
You watch it.
You don't watch it for 7 or 8 hours.
No, there are like stars on the Weather Channel.
And you are looking at one of those stars. The Weather Channel publicity agent calls Jim Cantore the Mike Wallace of meteorology, best known for his live field reports of major weather events like Hurricanes Andrew, Bonnie, Floyd, George, and Mitch. He is with us tonight from beautiful Crater Lake, Oregon, and not just one star with us tonight, but 2 meteorologists. Mike Seidel has been with the Weather Channel for over a decade. He says he started keeping snowfall records in the 2nd grade. He is with us tonight from Dutchtown, Missouri. Not as beautiful because of what's going on there. He's been covering the floods for the Weather Channel. We're also joined tonight for the impact of all of this by Professor Robert Thompson. He's director of the Center for the Study of Popular Television at Syracuse University. That's where he's with us from tonight. Gentlemen, welcome to you all. Jim, first of all, against that beautiful backdrop, the man most identified with being chained to a car during a storm, can you believe what the Weather Channel has become and how large your audience has become?
You know, I really can't, but in a way, I'm not surprised, just because I've seen people that have told me, hey, Jim, we watch the Weather Channel. My husband watches the Weather Channel all day. Is there anything I can do for him? Or, somebody's husband will come and say, my wife watches the Weather Channel all day. What am I going to do? But in a way, I'm not surprised because of the growth that we've seen over the past 16, 20 years. So it's been great. It's been a great ride. Be honest, Jim. What would you rather have, a beautiful day at Crater Lake or 70 to 80 mile an hour crosswinds with rain that hurts? Honest? You want me to be honest with you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
This is not bad right here. I got to tell you that, but my heart starts pumping when the winds get over 50 miles an hour, so I'd much rather deal with that.
We have this great shot while you talk of you looking for all the world like the Cowardly Lion when the lightning hit during the snowstorm, which is a great meteorological event. Mike Seidel, in our business, we often get sent to places like the West Bank, and the truth is we want to go. We want to be where the story is, and it involves sometimes danger to us, but it's not top of mind while you're there. Is it the same psychology in your business?
It is, Brian. You know, every time you go out, like Jim mentioned, the adrenaline gets pumping. You know, I was measuring snow when I was 6 years old, and now I'm out measuring snow and getting paid for it. I mean, it's so exciting. This past December, I got to see 7 feet of snow in 5 days. But during hurricanes, sometimes you realize that, you know, any moment something could come flying through the air. I remember in Floyd, we were at Wrightsville Beach on the Intercoastal, and the eye came over us at 3:30 in the morning. It was pitch black. The winds were gusting at 85 miles an hour, and I'm thinking, what about if a limb comes down and hits me? And I was a little nervous that night, but generally speaking, I'm so into the weather and so into the storm that I don't really think about the danger, probably much like those of you in news when you're in a dangerous part of the world.
Professor Thompson, yes, I'm a viewer, but I'm also interested in this as a business story, and my theory is kind of a Dick Morris-like triangulation. You start with the basic networks, and then came the Weather Channel, and it got laughed at and made fun of. People said, who's going to watch that? But it showed everyone there was a niche market for cable. There's now 120 different cable stations. There's several news different stations, and the broadcast share came away from the networks a little bit. What was the dynamic there? Was it just the giving of choice to American viewers?
Well, I think, you know, everybody, when they heard Weather Network, Food Network, it sounded like a Saturday Night Live sketch, and people did laugh at it. But they're not laughing anymore. And I think what's happening is with the Weather Channel, at first you'd have thought, okay, people will turn it on right before work. There'll be a huge spike in the ratings when they find out whether they need an umbrella or not, and then everybody will turn it off. The thing is, the Weather Channel had something else up its sleeve. They have turned the weather into high drama. This isn't just a utility like MTV used to be, turn it on and videos would come out. This has become something that when you're sliding through the dial, sometimes you can get sucked into this Weather Channel vortex. I've lost 40, 50, 2 hours of my life watching because I can't wait to see what's going to happen to that high pressure front, what's going on with this dew point. They've really managed with these meteorologists to turn a little bit of science, a little bit of drama, and all this enthusiasm into some really compelling viewing. Forget about the weather.
Well, you raise a lot of interesting questions. What's the most popular time of day when the most viewers tune in? I've always wanted to know what goes on at 3 o'clock in the morning behind the scenes. For those not on the shift on the air, we're going to ask all these questions right after a break. We'll be back with all three of our guests right after this.
Know who's so big in business? Singular Wireless. What do you have to say?
Winter storm warnings are in effect. We have winds in from the east, northeast at about 45 miles per hour. And I'll tell you what, I'm having a hard time relaying this to you because I'm being blown around.
It just hurts watching it. That's from 1990. By the way, this documentary on 20 years of the Weather Channel has been running pretty consistently. It's on again 5 Eastern Saturday. We're back with our guest. Jim Cantore of the Weather Channel is with us. Mike Seidel of the Weather Channel and Professor Robert Thompson. Jim, we got into this before the break. Do you mind if people use you like they use news radio? You make it a virtue that they can get their local forecast on the 8s. Do you just hope they stick around before and after?
Yeah, I mean, what we've done over the years, Brian, is basically format our whole day to how people are watching. In the morning, dress me. At night, tell me how to dress tomorrow. And that's really how our whole day works. And, you know, the Weather Channel is known for doing just a ton of research. So we've gone out and we've asked them, what do you want to see? What do you want to see? Well, not only do we want to see a ton of maps, guys, but we want you to show us what it's like to be in a hurricane. What's it like to be in a winter storm? And what I'm doing out here at Crater Lake and what's evolved here is a new show that we're going to do next year called Storm Stories. Everyone out there watching us tonight has had the weather affect them. We're going to have them tell us about it, and we're going to show America how they've been affected by a storm.
Jim, tell the truth now. Again, is there any better shift? What's considered the prime shift? Is Sunday night, for example, the time when you get the most hits of people looking around to get the weather for the week ahead?
Sunday night's big, weekend. A lot of times our viewers will come in the morning. That's when it's most useful for them. Like you said, with radio, they'll leave it on, maybe go grab a cup of coffee, come back and join us again. It's all about convenience. And when they don't have the Weather Channel on, they're checking us at the office on weather.com. So we've made a great brand, Brian, in the Weather Channel, and people are coming to us and finding out what's going on.
Mike Seidel, one of the constants in the business is that people want to know weather. They want it on their local news, cable news. It's a universal, and you guys always have the next story. You're forever saying, and we've got to watch this front coming in from the Pacific on the California coast, and that kind of lays out your week for you.
Right, Brian. It's a never-ending forecast. It's been that way for 20 years, and people come to us to find out, as Jim mentioned, what are we going to do tomorrow? How do we plan our weekend? Is it going to rain? Is it going to snow? And they just keep tuning in, and people get addicted. And now, with the educational value of the Weather Channel, we've got a whole generation of kids that are coming up on the Weather Channel. They don't know anything any better. And I got a guy on the phone the other night, a student, who says, I want your job. So I better watch myself.
Now, Professor Thompson, we're talking about what's a big audience? What's a good audience for a niche cable channel compared to the, 40 million people who watch Friends and ER and shows like that?
Well, I'll give you an example. The Osbournes get 6 million people, and that's considered one of the hugest hits in all of cable. In fact, it is the biggest hit in all of cable right now. So we're talking a much, much smaller audience. But you know, you don't have to get people watching this every day. What cable channels need to do is, nobody surfs through 200, 300 channels. What you have to do is get into that menu of about a dozen that everybody watches. And what I think the Weather Channel has been so cagey about doing is it's managed to get itself into that group of 7, 12 channels that people check out every now and again. Everybody seems to know the number on the cable dial of the Weather Channel, and that's the most important thing for a cable operation.
Jim, behind the scenes, how long are you off camera? What are the shifts like, and are you always reading the wires? I know there's staff meteorologists as well, kind of in the back room, who help you guys out, correct?
Yeah, we have about 100 meteorologists at the Weather Channel, whether they're doing weather.com stuff, whether they're doing our weather scan local, or whether they're doing, just Weather Channel forecasts. We're always looking at the weather. And, I remember one of the summers, I think it was like 94, 95, where we were getting hurricanes coming off the African coast almost every other day. So we're just there, we're like, oh no, not here we go again. Another one coming off the coast. Where's it going to go? So every day, the first thing we do when we came in is to look at that long-range forecast to see where these hurricanes were going.
Seidel, I know your defense is that you're on the road a lot. What about the pregnancy thing?
Well, my wife is doing 2 weeks, and if I don't get it, if I miss that, I'd like to find maybe a name of a good divorce attorney. But,
boy, I think Cosby's onto something, though. I mean, it's people followed the Janetta Jones baby as if it were the royal child, or the first one in the business. Thank you all very much for coming on tonight. Professor Thompson up at Syracuse, and two of our favorites on the air, Mike Seidel and Jim Cantore. It's a pleasure sharing, I don't know if they call it a cable dial or a remote control or a cable box with you gentlemen. Always has been. Thank you all for coming on tonight.
Thanks, Brian.
We'll be back with our first look at what's making headlines in the Saturday morning papers around the country right here this Friday night.